At a House Rules Committee hearing on Wednesday, Representative Michelle Fischbach discussed the Inflation Reduction Act. On Sunday, all 50 Senate Democrats voted for the bill, and all 50 Republicans voted against it, with Vice President Kamala Harris, as president of the Senate, casting the tie-breaking vote. The Inflation Reduction Act is a slimmed-down version of the Build Back Better bill, which aimed to make historic investments in the nation's social safety net. The new bill makes the largest investment in combating climate change in U.S. history, lowers the cost of prescription drugs, and raises taxes on corporations. Fischbach voiced her opposition of the bill, arguing it was, quote, out of touch with the American people.
Fischbach.
Chair, I appreciate the opportunity. And, first, I just would like to address the agriculture funding in the bill. The funding levels have not been considered in markup. We have no idea if the USDA even has the capacity to properly utilize the amount of funds provided, seeing as they work with around $900 million each year compared to the roughly $20 billion provided under this bill. This is not to mention the major staffing shortages that impair the even current funding level we provide. Altogether, I have serious concerns over the potential for abuse and misuse of taxpayer funds given these factors. This funding is for Farm Bill programs outside of the Farm Bill process, meaning again, it has not received any hearings or debate within the House Agriculture Committee. It has not received input from our side of the aisle, meaning it circumvents the traditionally bipartisan process of creating a farm bill. It has not received any input from stakeholders. There is no doubt that this will complicate the farm bill process, which has already begun, but needs to be complete next year. More importantly, I was just out in the district doing farm tours and visiting with producers. Not a single one of the farmers I spoke to asked for this funding. They are asking us to address fuel costs, input costs, inflation, supply chains, and bureaucratic overreach, issues unaddressed in the bill before us. I think it goes to show my colleagues' priorities and how out of touch this legislation is with the American people. I do have a couple of questions. I did want to ask Ranking Member Smith. Ranking Member, proponents of the bill argue that this legislation will fight inflation by reducing the deficit. And I think we've talked a little bit about it. As I understand it, the bill increases the deficit in the short term. Is the bill providing the kind of front-loaded deficit reduction that would be expected to help with inflation?
Yeah, thank you, Representative. Thanks for the question. If you even follow and go along with the budget gimmicks and the fake sunsets that the Democrats have put in this bill, the first 5 years, Representative, the first 5 years underneath this bill will add $54 billion to the debt. $54 billion, and 80% of their projected deficit reduction doesn't begin until the year 2029. That's 7 years down the road, Representative, to start addressing inflation. 7 years. And those are the facts. If anyone wants to argue those facts, let's do it. But the first 5 years under their fake budget gimmicks and sunsets, under that, $54 billion is added to the debt.
And Ranking Member Smith, I would think that we would want to reduce the deficit now while the inflation is at record highs. And I'm assuming you would agree with that.
Absolutely. The reason why we have the problem with this inflation is the trillions of dollars of reckless government spending. And they're trying to inject $745 billion more dollars of spending and adding almost $150 billion to the debt. But under even their budget gimmicks and fake sunsets, it's adding $54 billion to the debt in the first 5 years. Representative, I know the IRS audits have came up so many times. I just want to, it has some real impacts on people. And I was just looking at your state. I wanted to point this out to you. With this proposal, For families who make less than $200,000 a year in the state of Minnesota, 17,000 more families will face an audit with the IRS because of this $80 billion investment to hire more IRS agents. I don't think the folks of Minnesota would be happy with that.
And I would agree. Thank you for pointing that out, Representative Smith. And the other, I did want to, Congressman Smith, just give you the opportunity to comment. Even though you're on Zoom and I am too, I can see you react to some of the statements that have been made. And so I wanted to give you the opportunity, if there was anything that has been said that you wanted to comment, that you would have that opportunity.
Representative, I thank you very much. I've been grateful that I've been able to respond to a lot of them, but in regards to the tax burden that's being affected because of the tax increases on here, I just want to point out that the joint tax has said that one fourth of all corporate tax increases will rest on individuals. One fourth of it will rest on individuals. So those are tax increases that's going to fall right on the taxpayer, and joint tax has said that. This bill right here does two horrible things. It spends hundreds of more billions of dollars, and it taxes hundreds of billions of more dollars. The idea that the solution to our inflation crisis and the idea of our solution to the recession is to spend our way out of inflation and to tax our way out of recession, the American people aren't buying it. They're not going to support it. You can push all the numbers you want on polling saying that the American people want it. This is an environmentalist wish dream. This is a proposal to try to buy off a lot of the wealthy environmental donors at the expense of hardworking Americans who are surviving barely to put food on their table, clothes on their backs, and gasoline in their cars. And this is only going to continue to drive inflation. It's going to make inflation longer in this country and worse in this country.
Well, and I thank you very much for that, Ranking Member Smith. And I just wanted to turn to Mr. Carter for just a moment, and just offer him the opportunity. I know you kind of have joined the conversation late, but if there was something that you had heard that you would want to comment, Mr. Carter.
Well, I thank the lady for yielding. And yeah, I want to comment. I've been sitting here listening to y'all talk about drug pricing and how this is going to help. Listen, everyone here collectively doesn't understand drug pricing as well as I do. I have lived it. I've practiced it for 42 years. I've practiced pharmacy. And you're missing the point here. It's not the drug manufacturers. It's the PBMs, the pharmacy benefit managers, the middlemen. They're the ones that are making the profits here. And who owns the PBMs? The insurance companies. That's who owns it. Why is the FTC undertaking a study right now, as we speak, to look at the vertical integration that exists in drug pricing now, where the insurance company owns the PBM and owns the pharmacy? They're going to make money along the way. The Berkeley Research Group just did a study about 3 months ago that showed that only 37% of the price of a prescription drug goes to the pharmaceutical manufacturer. The rest of it, where does that go? The 63%? It goes to the PBM. They get rebates. Do they pass them on to the customers? No, they don't pass them on to the customers. They keep them. And who is the PBM? It's the insurance company. And what are we doing here? You're simply pumping up the insurance companies. That's why I've got legislation. And look, nobody knows better than I do. I was on the other side of the counter for 42 years. I was the one who had to go tell people how much their prescription was going to cost them. I was the one who had to watch them make a decision, the senior citizens make a decision between getting groceries or getting drugs. I was the one that watched the mother in tears call a family member trying to get money to pay for her antibiotic for her child. That was me. I was the one on the other side of the counter. I know all too well how big of a problem this is. I also know all too well how much research and development means. Let me tell you, folks, I started practicing pharmacy in 1980. And when I started practicing in 1980, if you were diagnosed with hepatitis C, you were going to die. You were going to die if you were diagnosed with hepatitis C. Today, we can cure it with a pill. One pill, we can cure it. How phenomenal is that? And what's that a result of? The research and development. Now, do pharmaceutical manufacturers need to do a better job with their pricing? Yes, they do. There's no question about that. But I'm telling you, you're missing the point here. It's not just them. It's primarily the PBMs. How long have I been preaching that? For 8 years since I've been in Congress. 8 years. You got to have transparency in the drug pricing chain. These PBMs are keeping their profits. They're keeping those rebates. They're the ones who are holding the drug companies hostage and saying, if you want to get on our formulary, you give me a rebate. That's the way you're going to get on our formulary. You go to the doctor and you get diagnosed with high blood pressure, and they're going to tell you, your insurance company is going to tell you, this is the drug that you can use for high blood pressure. I don't care about the side effect profile that you have. That doesn't matter to me. What matters is that we're getting the biggest rebate right here. And therefore, that's what you're going to get. That's the drug you're going to get because it's on our formulary. Hey, if you want to pay more, that's fine. But if you're going to pay this copay, this is what you're going to get because I'm getting the biggest rebate from them. Look, I've got an amendment I'd like to talk about. The biopharmaceutical companies, they bring cures to patients.
Mr. Carter, we're not at the amendment stage. You can testify after this panel about your amendment, but this is a question and answers, the opening panel. So,
hey, keep railing then. That's fine.
All right. Well, I thank you, Mr. Carter, and I appreciate that. And I think that your discussion about the PBMs and the input there points out once again that if the bill had really been any kind of discussion and input from all of the members or more of the members, that it certainly would have been an improved bill and you would have addressed some of those things. And just once again, disappointing that we don't follow regular order and do the kinds of things to get the input from all the sides and all of the input that we should when we're putting together legislation. And with that, Mr. Chair, I yield back.
thank you very